Madridistas, welcome back. Welcome back to the center of the football universe. Welcome back to Madrid on kind of a gloomy morning. Listen, I want to talk about the Real Sociedad match last night, which I think it was such a professional performance in every respect. It was just so clinical, so professional at every level. I use the word assassin in my thumbnail because, Real Madrid really is, we are the professional assassins of world football. I mean, it's amazing how clinical and systematic we are. We sort of prepare, we show up where we need to be, we get everything ready, boom, one shot, done, and we move on to the next match. It's the ease, the kind of systematic way that Real Madrid can just deal with matches is extraordinary. But okay, I want to talk about the match. I want to talk about Ancelotti for a little bit as well, because I think we have to give him a lot of credit. We'll talk about the formation, which, I mean, we really nailed it. In my previous video, it wasn't so much what I thought Ancelotti would do as what I hoped he would do, but he turned out to do exactly what I was hoping for most of the match. But we'll talk about Ancelotti, the formation, and then obviously we'll do player ratings, which is always a lot of fun because I get a lot of input from you guys. So thanks for coming back to the channel. Let's get started. All right, welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, let's talk about last night's match, but I want to talk about Ancelotti a little bit first because we have to give him a lot of credit. And, I've talked at length on this channel about the Militao, the Alaba, and the Courtois injuries. But if you really think about, honestly, where we are, I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary because, as a manager, we sit here as sort of pundits and we kind of, we all have opinions. But to really manage all the issues that a manager has to manage must be really, really difficult because in addition to those injuries, you have injuries during the course of the year, and we had Vinny was injured, and Jude was injured, and Camavinga was injured, and then you have red cards and bans. The Jude had a two match ban. I mean, you have so many different issues that you have to deal with, and then you have to deal with all of the emotions of the players and make sure that they're in the right state of mind. That even players that don't play very often, you want them to still feel upbeat and part of the group and part of the team. And I think to manage all of these things must be so difficult. So when you see a performance like yesterday where you're playing with 9 substitutes, I mean, Carvajal and Tchouaméni were the only sort of regular players, and to get that kind of a performance out of all of them and making sure that they're not just that they know exactly what they need to do on the pitch, but that they are physically in absolutely perfect shape to perform. I mean, we really do have to give Ancelotti a lot of credit, and don't forget the pressure. I mean, the pressure of managing this team, this club, with all of the expectations where losing is just not allowed. I mean, if you really look at everything that Ancelotti has to deal with, I mean, we have to give the guy a huge amount of credit. And at the end of the day, the proof is in the pudding. And look where we are. Semifinals of the Champions League. We're about to win the Liga. So it's hats off to Carlo. And I think he's the best manager in the world. And I think we need to give him a little bit of credit. Okay, let's talk about the formation. Now, the formation was almost exactly what I had sort of wished for in my previous video. Now, Carvajal had to play because, he can't play in Munich because of, accumulation of yellow cards. So we knew Carvajal had to be in there. Tchouaméni, I was kind of hoping wouldn't be in there, but we did need a little bit of muscle, and I thought had a phenomenal game. But other than that, it was everything I had hoped for. He just rested absolutely everybody. I can tell you that it was a fantastic feeling to watch Fede on the bench because he's played every single minute this season, and it was just so nice to see him resting for, most of the match. And then obviously the two things that we wanted to really focus on were Arda Güler, which I mentioned we really wanted to see and Militao. It was very important to see both of those guys play as much as possible. So in terms of formation, those are kind of my thoughts. It was what I hoped Ancelotti would do, and he did. Now, in terms of the match itself, now it was raining the entire time. Now, those of you that know Spain, in the north of Spain, it rains, all the time. So that tends to make the pitch very, very slick. The play is very, very quick, but it also makes passing a little bit less precise. So that had an impact, throughout the whole match. But Real Sociedad started, as you would expect, they were sort of, pushing forward a lot. Take Kubo played really, really well. He was an absolute nightmare along the right wing. He's such a quick dribbler. He's a phenomenal player. But we were struggling, certainly in the first 20 minutes to get the ball out of the back. We had to we were unable to play it out most of the time, kind of kicking long balls out, etc. But we were defending in a very organized way. It's just something that, obviously we did it in Manchester for a really long time, but this is something the team really knows how to do very well. So we defended very, very well in a very compact way. And then in the 29th minute, typical Real Madrid, sort of the Mike Tyson of football. We're sort of defending, and then boom, one shot. Real Madrid does not need a lot to score a goal. And we get one great chance. This was a really beautiful pass by Tchouaméni to Carvajal, and Carvajal very intelligently, typically a winger in that situation would control the ball before crossing it, but he put the ball, he crossed it on his first touch, which was very intelligent because it gave our forwards an advantage. Joselu, I think the cross was intended for Joselu, but he didn't reach it, but Arda did phenomenally well and struck it first time. He didn't try to control it. I thought that was a really intelligent thing to do. So I thought it was a brilliant goal. But again, just very sort of savvy, experienced defending. And again, that lethal counter that Real Madrid has. In the second half, the texture of the match was very similar. It was, pretty much the same. Real Sociedad attacking most of the time. We're defending in a quite organized way. Although tactically, we did change a little bit. Arda Güler came more to the middle. He started the game on the right side. He drifted more to the middle. Luka Modric actually came further back and sort of played in that pivot position in the second half. But it was basically kind of the same idea, just defending very seriously with a lot of discipline and then trying to catch an opportunity on the break. Now, in the 68th minute, this is when I got a little bit concerned. And as much as I praised Carlo at the beginning of this video, I was a bit concerned because in the 68th minute, he started to bring in some of the big guns. Camavinga came in, Vini, Fede, Rudiger, and then Lucas Vázquez. And we kind of went into a 4-4-2 at that point. But I thought it was a little bit unnecessary and risky to bring the big guns in at that point, to be honest. I'm not sure it's something I would have done. But Carlo knows better, so we have to respect him. But that was sort of the tonic of the game. Again, just the typical game that Madrid just knows how to plug and play. Incredible performance considering you have 9 players off the bench. In terms of player ratings, let's go through these. So Kepa, I'm going to give Kepa a 7. I think that he was very, very good in terms of reflex saves. He didn't have a huge amount of work, but the saves that he did need to make, he made very, very well. So I'm going to give him a 7. He was a little bit tentative in the air on a couple of occasions. But I think overall, did inspire a lot more kind of confidence and security than he has in the past. And like I say, his reflex saves were quite good. So I'm going to give him a 7. Nacho, I'm going to give Nacho a 6. Nacho always works really hard, and he always, compensates his lack of sort of stature with speed. So he is very quick. He's always in the right place at the right time. He didn't do much in terms of contributing to attack, but, he played just a typical Nacho match, very serious, very solid in defense. And I would say, overall, I think 6 is probably a fair rating. Okay, Militao. I'm going to give Militao a 6. And, his passing was mixed. There was one very beautiful long pass in the 23rd minute that was just reminded me of the Militao of old. But then he was sloppy in a couple of other passes. He defended well. I think he was missing a little bit of kind of sharpness. I think, the fitness issue is probably still there. I think overall he had a solid match, showed us some glimpses of the old Militao, but I think probably is still not ready, certainly not ready to start in Munich. I'd be very surprised if that were the case. But I think Militao had a decent game, so I'm going to give him a 6. Okay, Fran Garcia, I'm going to give a 5. He was a little bit late on a couple of occasions. And the best case in point is when he got the yellow card, just a fraction too late at times. Also in attack, I find he's a little bit kind of chaotic in attack. When the ball gets to that wing and he pushes forward, it just seems a little bit kind of crazy and random. I'm always a little bit, stressed when he's leading the attack on the wing because he doesn't flow in the play as much as just sort of, he's very quick, but just seems a little bit chaotic in attack. But and like I say, he was a bit late on a couple of balls, so I'm going to give him a 5, which I think is fair. Carvajal, I'm going to give Carvajal a 7. He's always such a gritty player. He's always so aggressive in his marking. He gives that defense so much teeth. I think he had a very, good overall game, and he contributed obviously to attack. And like I say, his contribution to the goal was really spectacular, because if you guys watch that goal again, the decision to put that ball in first touch was excellent. So defended very well, contributed well in attack. So I'm going to give Carvajal a 7. Okay, Tchouaméni for me gets a 9. Okay, I think Tchouaméni was man of the match. I think he was absolutely spectacular. I can't remember a single pass that he missed. I mean, he got a yellow card, which was ridiculously bogus. The referee was awful, by the way, just absolutely awful. But Tchouaméni played an absolutely fantastic match. He occupied so much space in the midfield. He did a great job defending, stealing balls, moving the ball to attack. His transition play was excellent. His defending was excellent. I think Tchouaméni had just an absolutely almost perfect game. So I'm going to give him a 9, and he was, definitely my man of the match. Out of that, I'm going to give an 8. I thought he was spectacular. I mean, I thought, it's a shame that he had to be substituted, I think, in the 68th minute. And that was only because of the yellow card, which was, again, avoidable, something he didn't need to protest the way he did. It's a shame because I think he would have stayed on if it weren't for that yellow card. But I thought he showed an incredible amount of skill. There was one beautiful play. In Spanish, we call it a sombrero, when you lob the ball over a defender and pass it to yourself. It was beautiful. He showed a lot of skill in the goal, a lot of maturity, a lot of, that was kind of the decision making of a much more experienced striker. So I thought, he was very, very good. And another thing I would mention about Arda is that even though he's a small player, he doesn't have a lot of physical presence, but he's not shy about going into getting really physical in 50-50 balls. I mean, he'll take people on and he'll get in there. So it's, he has a physicality despite his size that I thought he played a wonderful game. He kept the flow of play moving constantly, very intelligent decision making. I thought he had a fantastic game, and it was a shame we had to take him off because of the card. Okay, Ceballos, this was the biggest disappointment of the evening. I mean, Ceballos, I'm going to give him a 4, but in fairness, I mean, I could give him a 3. I mean, honestly, he just had a terrible match. He started the game sort of stuck on the left side, but he just makes the wrong decisions all the time. I mean, he holds the ball up too long. There were a couple of situations in front of our box where he was sort of spinning and turning and trying to dribble through players. Just that's not what you do in those areas. And he puts the ball at risk a little bit too much. And then in transition, he holds the ball up too much. He doesn't contribute to the flow of play. So I think Ceballos had an absolutely awful game. I'm going to give him a 4, but it could be a 3. I just don't want to be cruel. Okay, Luka Modric. I'm going to give Modric a 6. He played a little bit further up in the first half, a little bit further back in the second half. Played well. I mean, contributed well. I didn't think he was particularly, flashy either in attack or didn't steal too many balls in defense. I think he played a solid game, but he wasn't the presence that we're used to seeing sometimes. It wasn't the match. We've seen other matches where he's been much more present. I think he contributed, to the play, and he kind of contributed to the flow, but I don't think was as spectacular as on other occasions. But I'm going to give Modric a 6. Now Joselu, I'm going to give Joselu a 5, and I don't know how much of this is his fault because it wasn't just Joselu's game. I mean, Joselu is like a number 9, right? And in order to use a number 9. You need to have a lot of possession. You need to get a lot of balls into the box. And it just wasn't that kind of game. I mean, this was a game where Joselu was practically playing as a winger, and that's not really his role. It's not really his style. So, he was forced to play off the wing sometimes, and that's not really his cup of tea. So I think I'm going to give him a 5. He didn't really intervene that much in play, but I'm not sure to what extent it's his fault entirely. But I think the fair grade for him would be a 5. Now, Brahim, I'm going to give Brahim a 7, and you guys might think I'm being generous, but, his dribbles and stuff didn't really work that well. Like I say, the pitch was very slick, and, he dribbles a lot, and it wasn't really happening, but he just tries so much. He's so active. I mean, he's always asking for the ball. He's always trying to make things happen. There is something electric about him, and I'm going to give him a 7, not because things really worked out, but because he just tries so hard. He had so much. He's always adding energy in the attack. He comes back to pick up balls a lot, and he's always taking defenders on. I think, his effort is always very disturbing to opposing defenders. And so his energy level alone, I think, warrants a 7. But anyway, listen, those are my thoughts on this match. Again, a very clinical, professional performance. This was like hitman type stuff. Great performance from players that don't usually play, and a lot of that credit to Ancelotti for keeping this team in this kind of shape and condition, mentally and physically. But okay, listen, I'll come back to you guys with a preview of the Bayern match, which obviously is just massive. So I'll put that out probably Monday morning. But thanks for joining me, as always. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next video. And as always, a la Madrid.